Hi friends, I'm Katie Brinkley and you're listening to Rocky Mountain Marketing. With nearly 2 decades helping business owners, consultants, and coaches with their digital marketing, I know that social media can be an incredible tool to grow your business when you know how to do it the right way. And that's what we're going to do today. I teach you how to navigate the world of entrepreneurship and digital marketing, and hopefully you'll grow your business with a few great tips you wouldn't have known otherwise, and maybe even discover a great local business you love. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome back to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Now, today's guest, I've actually had the pleasure of knowing, it's been almost like 2.5 years now, but this is our second time that we've been able to talk face to face. She is just a joy to be around and has so many great tips to share. She's also a former Second City star. But today's guest is JoAnne Pavin. So JoAnne is a wellness consultant, a speaker, an entrepreneur, founder, and the author of The Meal magazine, which is a quarterly publication that is coupled with live events that inspire people to connect around food and the meal experience. Now, why did I want to have JoAnne come on? She is just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to self-care. And as entrepreneurs, man, we tend to put ourselves kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. We have a hard time giving ourselves the attention that we deserve. But before we dive into self-care too much, JoAnne, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you, Katie. I'm so glad to be here. So glad to connect here and share whatever knowledge and value I can add, which we need a lot of that in stress
Well, you have
management.
a lot of experience in this, and you've been doing this for over 2 decades now. So working especially with entrepreneurs, executives, leadership teams. So I know that you are going to just bring a wealth of knowledge to the podcast today. But I touched on it briefly. You used to do the Second City before you moved into the world of entrepreneurship. I think that's such a cool, fun fact about you. And you always just say it as like such a passing accolade, but the Second City is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's fun. I did that about 15 years ago, and now I'm aging myself, right? I'd like to stay 22 forever. But anyhow, I think Second City was one of the best experiences, and I do try to integrate it in a lot of things that I do with entrepreneurs and executives, because we all need humor, right? We need the skill of improv too. We've been throwing a lot of curveballs in the last 2 years, obviously with COVID, and to be able to roll with it and to improv in your life is so important. Like how we had to immediately move, from offices to home offices, and how you have to just say yes and then what, So I love Second City just for fun, number one, because I love humor and I just love to make people laugh, and I think that people need to be a little bit more lighthearted in general. But I love Second City because it's so important to communicate with others listening. And that's one key thing. People don't realize that improv is more than performing. It's listening. So I need to actively listen to you and not just think, oh, what am I going to say next? And I think that was the biggest lesson for me, is that people need to be heard. And today we are so distracted that we don't really listen that well. So that's what it did for me. And I like to integrate it now into everything that I do with corporate, with people who I'm working one-on-one with, is that we need to first look at the lighter side, laugh a little, and then think about first, yes, for everything. What can we say yes to, even if we don't like it, because it might be something that we're just shutting down right away. So, and there's a lot of fun games that you can play. I love to play these games with people that have never been in improv that just are life games. And so I don't perform on stage and I'm not a comedian, but I found there was a lot of benefit to being in. Well, that's true.
I mean, I never thought about it that way with improv. Like you said, it makes you be a better listener. You have to be able to think on your feet. And I'm sure that absolutely helped you transition into the world of entrepreneurship and starting your own business and doing what you do today of being that leader, being a good listener, and helping others do the same. So let's actually talk a little bit about the whole pivoting. I mean, you pivoted out of the theater world and into entrepreneurship. Let's just talk about that really quickly. Why did you decide to become an entrepreneur and go into helping others learn how to value their self-care?
Okay, well, Second City was sort of like a transitionary phase. It was just something I did as an adjunct. I'd always been an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. I hate to say this, and I don't like to say the word hate, but I really don't do well like working in a cubicle or working for a company. So I had started my own business 25 years ago, right after college. So I am aging myself. But what I did is I really loved health and fitness. I loved wellness. I knew that sitting in a cubicle wasn't going to be healthy for me. It can't be really healthy for anybody that does it long term. Like, and that's why I teach people today is to get up and change your environment, et cetera, et cetera. But the entrepreneurship, it's peaks and valleys, right? We're on a roller coaster. So when I did Second City, I had already been in business for probably, like 10, 12 years. And Second City was something that really helped because it was this missing element that we succeed, we fail. I had a startup early on in the early 2000s that, within 2 years it flopped and I had to recover from that. And so we talk a lot about resilience. And I think that, the program there, it was a year program. And then I went on to IO, which is Improv Olympics. I got addicted, right? But the thing is that these training programs are something that just really help us get unstuck. They tap into our creativity. And we need creativity as entrepreneurs. We just do. If we're not creative, we're not on, entrepreneurship is just always creating something new every day for your own brand. So the program there was great because it tapped into more creativity. I had to rebound from some failures that I had, early on with the startup. And what happened then is, a whole new road opened up. And, I started doing presentations. I was more comfortable too with communicating with people because I had done the improv training. I was confident and able to get into more of the corporate side of presenting and being able to teach people wellness on that end. And so with that, I have to say that if you're an entrepreneur and you want to just get out of the box, taking a course, you can just take a course. You can take an 8-week course. Taking something for 8 weeks can help open up your mind and connect you with people. I'm still friends with these people. So I would say that was, inserted at a great time in my entrepreneurship. And now here I am 12 years later, and I'm constantly going back to those
JoAnne,
tools
you
that I
brought up
learned.
a really good point with the whole entrepreneurship burnout and having to consistently be creating. I mean, with social media especially, if you're an entrepreneur, basically you have to be a content creator now. And burnout is happening to more and more people that I am friends with, that I follow online. I just need to take a social media break. They take 2 weeks off of social media because they're just getting that creative burnout. So let's actually talk about that a little bit because you specialize so much in self-care. And how do you help entrepreneurs really kind of dial back from getting that creative burnout and focus back in on the importance of listening to their mindset, listening to their body when they're starting to get that burnout?
Okay, yeah, that is so important. And there's a couple tools that I use. So individually and with companies, I use this 4M method, and it's simple. I use the M's because it helps you remember. And, the first M is meals, and that's what you're eating. And the second M is movement and how you're moving, you're exercising. And the third M is meditating or how you're breathing, because people don't realize that breath just plays such a big role in your productivity. And so that could be a whole nother topic that we get into. But the fourth M is then mindset and really working with positive affirmations and how you're thinking. So it's how you're moving, how you're eating, how you're sleeping, how you're thinking, really. And with that, you set each one aside and you start to grade yourself on how you're doing in each area. And I think what people forget is that they need to slow down with everything. They need to slow down and think about what they're putting in their mouth. They need to slow down and think about Am I just mindlessly exercising? What type of movement am I doing? If I'm doing any movement at all, as far as the sleep is concerned and the breathing, sleep and breathing go hand in hand when I say, the meditation part, because sleep is a form of meditation. So how you're sleeping, number one, like that's my biggest self-care is sleep. If I don't get sleep, I'm a disaster. And I'm sure being a mom, you know that, like, when you have little ones, it's like the sleep is so big. So you need to look at how you're sleeping and how you're breathing, because that's just going to affect your whole physiology and your whole endocrine system. And then the meditation, or I should say the mindset part. And, that last part is just the positive motivation that you need, like your affirmations, like the people that you surround yourself with. Like, say, for instance, like a course you take, Second City course, or like a team building course, something to get you excited and motivated is important. And what we found is post-COVID, people they call quiet quitting. Yeah. I have to bring this up because it's such a big deal right now. The quiet quitting is happening. Well, why is it happening? Big organizations, and my husband works for one, like a big organization, you have to pay attention to your employees' wellness. You really do. You have to pay attention to how dialed in they are to their work, and what you can do to inspire them and to get them excited about being there. If they have to show up in an office, yes, big time. But if they're at home, you have to still inspire them by group and team effort to come together and camaraderie and all of that. So the quiet quitting is happening because these people don't feel like they're appreciated. They just don't feel like they're recognized or they're appreciated, and they're just doing the bare minimum. So we need a big revamp.
Exactly what you said. And I'm glad that, we're talking about this quiet quitting that is happening, because I think that there's a lot of people, many probably who listen to the podcast, who have dreamt about entrepreneurship, and they're like, well, why not now? Might as well give it a shot. Like, things are not the way I want them to be at my business. And you can say all you want about, like, oh, well, our office has a team ping pong table and free beer after work. But really, is that what your employees need? Is it more time at the office with their coworkers, or is it more time outside? Is it having more time with their family? What is it? Because everybody's self-care recipe is different. And it's really important for so many entrepreneurs, especially to take that self-care. Like, so for example, I struggled with mindset, and I worked with a mindset coach. And while I was working with her, I was like, man, why am I struggling with mindset so much? I played sports growing up. You have to have a good mindset if you play sports, because if you go up into the batter's box after striking out last time and go, well, here it goes again, I'm going to go strike out. What are you going to do? You're going to go up there and strike out. But having the right mindset and having those people around you that can help lift you up and support you is extremely important. And with a lot of big businesses, like you said, I think that they're not prioritizing a lot of the right things that so many people discovered are important to them during the pandemic.
Exactly. And, you mentioned that you played, I listened to one of your other episodes, so I know you were a softball player. So, right. Like if you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. And I'm going through that with my daughter right now playing sports, is that you can be, the negative attitude about anything is going to make you weaker. And we know that. And I know that just because I studied in my line of work, I studied applied kinesiology. And we know that when you see a smiley face, your muscles are stronger. When you see a frown, your muscles are weak. It's just the body never lies. So this motivation behind, like, getting people to care for themselves at work, that they need simple tips. And, obviously people say, oh, go to a yoga class or walk outside. Sometimes they need more of a structure. And I don't know if you have a structure, if you have a program, but I think people like to be told, like, simple ways, like 1, 2, 3, 4, how are you going to do it? And make it as easy and I guess mindless, even though you want to be more mindful, right? You want to be more connected to what you're doing. You want to do it and just kind of get in a rhythm so it becomes a habit. So what type of things do you do? Just because I know you're busy, you're recording podcasts, And do you have a self-care plan, or do you just kind of go depending on the day?
No, there's journaling. A lot of people have talked about journaling. There's, it's incorporating yoga and breathing exercises. I mean, I have my little calendar here with the daily affirmation. So today's affirmation is my life can expand and grow and be big and glorious as I want it to be. So, I mean, I have all the things around me to try and help with my own self-care. But honestly, the way that I recharge, the way that I get my creative juices flowing again, I have to be out of the office for one full day, out in nature. Either in the winter, I'm snowboarding; in the summer, hiking or going, just walking outside, going paddleboarding. Being outside in beautiful Colorado really resets my creative juices and helps me get in the right state of mind again. As we've talked about before on the podcast, as an entrepreneur, it can sometimes be a very stressful, lonely journey. And we have a tendency of just, okay, I have to get this done. Well, now if I want the business to do this, I have to do this project. Now I got to do a course, or now there's always something else that needs to be done. And yes, that can definitely help for business growth, but full transparency, there was times, 2 years ago where I was trying to grow and I was trying to do all the things and I was having breakdowns. I'd go sit in my little chair behind me here and I'd start crying. And that was a very clear sign to me that I wasn't giving myself the self-care that my body and my mind needed.
Most definitely. The thing about the burnout, it comes up, it creeps up. We have what's called the stress adaptation syndrome. So our body kind of slowly adapts and we think, oh, we're not stressed. But it's because it's kind of been like that slow uphill where you have more and more cortisol that's your stress hormone, cortisol. Cortisol is released and we adapt because we're really intelligent human beings and our body can do so many things. And we continually adapt to the stress hormone. And then what happens is we're so burnt out inside because that's what it does. It makes your system more acidic. Your cells aren't rejuvenating. They're not regenerating. And so we're just becoming sort of toxic, even though on the outside we feel good because we are as humans resilient. But we're just the inside and the mental and the physical have just taxed, right? So we have to stop. We have to stop right in as that upward climb with cortisol. We have to stop and realize, okay, let's do something intermittently, which is like daily. I would say daily to stop that climb. And we need to stop, like you said, you like one day. I call it the creative day of renewal. When you take one day and you go out in nature. And that's what I like to do with companies too, is a creative day of renewal for their employees. You go, you take a day, you interact, you go outside, you might have a class, you might have a team building activity, and then you eat and you celebrate and it's all great. But you might have to really find like a system. So it's like brushing your teeth. Like every day I tell people, I've got my essential oil here. I say, first thing I do in the morning is breathe in some eucalyptus. I go to brush my teeth and after I wash, I take the eucalyptus, I breathe it in and it's like, it's my natural, stimulant. It's before I drink my coffee and it just helps me because it clears my mind and it gets me ready for the day. It also clears the sinuses and all that. But that's one of my self-care is having essential oils and having those aromas because I am one of those sensory people that I feel that if I smell something at my desk, it's a simple thing. So a tool for everyone to use and take away is, write down 4 things in those areas. Like, how are you eating? How are you moving? How are you thinking, or how are you sleeping? Basically, how did you sleep and how are you going to rejuvenate yourself through the day? So are you going to take, a mindful meditation at noon? Or are you going to lay on the floor? Are you going to go out in the grass or are you going to go sit on a park bench? Get yourself something that you do in that area as far as breathing is concerned. And then your motivation, what are you doing daily? Like you said, you have your affirmations. I love that. Reading your affirmation, or some people like to do their, spiritual passage for the day or whatever it is. Get that going and make it a habit, like make it a rhythm. Because we need it, just like we brush our teeth, we need a self-care rhythm. And that will break that climb with the cortisol levels and that climb where we get so maxed out that all of a sudden, like you said, you're back in your chair crying and having breakdowns.
So for those listeners who have a team already in place, so they have small businesses. Let's say they have, admins. They've got some people working for them. What would your recommendation be for those people who already have a team in place? And they're like, well, I'm implementing self-care for myself. How can I ensure that my team isn't going to quiet quit on me, that they're implementing the self-care?
Okay, yeah, that's huge, because that's what I'm usually called on for. So it's, usually somebody from a company that wants me to come in. It depends on the division or whatever, but they say we need a revamp. Like we want, I speak on a number of topics within the whole wellness or under the wellness umbrella. So sometimes it's just creating a virtual presentation, an interactive virtual presentation, or getting somebody to come in to do a team day or half a day. Or it might just be like a team that cooks together, like we've done a food event where you all come together, you all decide it's like and it depends on the company and where they're located and if they have the accommodations for this, but you come together and you cook together. And food, everybody loves food. Who doesn't love food, right? And then everybody loves drink, whether it's alcoholic or not, it's rejuvenating and nourishing you at the most basic level. So you, as a leader, you have a team, you want to implement something that's fun, but yet can be team building. You get to know your coworkers, even if they're virtual, because, now everybody's virtual and they want to get to know each other a little better, and in-person events are back. So get them out of their virtual world and get them to a day event or a half day event or even 2 hours, and make an activity out of it. The other thing is just like a retreat, a day where they can learn breathing and they can do a yoga exercise, or they can learn self-hypnosis. I've done a lot of those. Those are wonderful. People are like, what? I've never done yoga before. What? I didn't know I was breathing wrong. Or, oh, I didn't know what the heck self-hypnosis was. I thought that was like you cluck like a chicken. No, self-hypnosis is one of the major tools that you can use to build your affirmation, your self-affirmations. So these are things that people can do. And, there's a number of different wellness apps out there. I'll say this as a consultant, I tell people about, there's those big companies that are out there that have an app for the employee. But I will tell you one thing about the app is that they're great, but people still need people. People need a real life, individual to connect with, somebody that they're getting a message from. They don't, and we don't always want to be on our devices all the time. And the apps are on a device. So that's one
and JoAnne, I think that honestly brings up a great point too with the digital distractions. They're everywhere. And as somebody, I have to turn my phone into work mode so that it just stays dark all day. And then, all of these different, Slack messages and emails popping up, and, there's so many times where I will be in the middle of something and then I'll check my email and then my entire workflow has gotten derailed. What do you recommend to keep the distractions down? Because I think that while our phones have, turned into these great portable computers that, we can look at anything at any time, they're distractions, and they're the longest leash we will ever have to staying connected is our phones and all of these different pop-ups and ways to stay connected. How do you recommend to people to cut down on all of these digital distractions so that they're not going to get derailed? They can still pay attention and stay focused while they're at work and be more productive there, so that they're not, they're able to give the time for their own self-care and not getting overwhelmed.
Exactly. I'm just looking, we have those options on our phone, on our iPhone, as far as focus, sleep. I don't know if you have an Apple phone, like I'm an Apple user. Android, I'm sure they have the same. They do have a similar option to quiet everything. So
it's in work. It's in work focus right now. Every time I walk, it's actually location based. So even when I come down for dinner downtown here by my office, it'll automatically go into work mode, even if it's 8 p.m. or whatever. But it's fine. It's a great tool. Yeah. But sometimes I'm like, well, I kind of wanted to be available for people.
Right. Okay. So this is a big topic, digital distraction. And I actually did a lot of work over the past 6 months with companies on it, because it generally just reduces productivity no matter who you are, even if you're a kid, and you're not working or you're not an entrepreneur. I want to say that one of the great books that I read, Deep Work by Cal Newport. He's a computer science professor, and he's written a bunch of great bestsellers on and a world without email. Now, that's another one to check out by Cal Newport, because he's a king of managing distraction. He talks about, building his business or his brand or his awareness around his books without social media. And you're like, what?
I know.
And you being a social media manager, you're like, how do you do that? Right. Well, so here's the thing. He gets into this thing called deep work. And I just love this. We need to, and again, it's habits. So it's not like someone's going to do it for you. At the end of the day, we all have to do our own work. We have to discipline ourselves to, like you said, put your phone in a certain mode or put it in a drawer. You have to set a bed aside for your phone and, at night, and get it out of the way. What you have to do is make sure you have a little card on your desk, like an index card that says, I'm going to do, or your time block card. I just like to set it out the night before, like my time blocking. When am I going to do deep work? All right. I'm sure with you have a lot to create. You have a lot to manage with podcasting and all of the clients that you coach. You have to have this period of time where you shut down. I call it digital shutdown at night for your sleep, and a digital sunset, whatever you might call it. And I'm grabbing these words from a lot of coaching programs that I've been in, so I feel bad that I'm not, crediting them. But I got the digital sundown is really important, because you can't go to sleep fully and you can't really rejuvenate if you're in blue light after, say you go to bed at 10 after 8 o'clock. So you need like 2 hours at least. I like to do the 2 hours. Or if you can't do that, 1 hour, just shut down the computer, shut down the phone, have the digital sundown, and then your mind is ready to relax, and you aren't waking up in the middle of the night, or you aren't having this interrupted sleep, because even though you might go to bed with your computer, you're not sleeping like you should sleep when you're looking at emails and things at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. You're just not. It's proven. They've done like studies on the brain. So you want to create this digital sundown. In the morning, the first thing you don't want to look at is your phone.
That's the first thing I do. I roll over, grab my phone, give yourself and start clearing out the junk emails.
Yeah. So I would say to you and everybody else, even myself, after I learned these things, and I learned these things in the Optimized program. It's Brian Johnson has this Optimized Coach program. It was a great program. I utilized all the tips as far as be creative before you're reactive. So, for instance, you're creative, you're an entrepreneur. Instead of reacting to your emails, wake up, do something creative, like, obviously you have your girls, or do some breath work, or do, if you have a deck, go stand out, welcome the day, breathe in the Colorado air, and then set a time where you're going to go to your emails and you're going to clear them out. But don't do it that they shouldn't rule you. You're the soul in control. You know that, right? The soul in control. You're the soul in control. So get out of bed and do something creative and rejuvenate your own self, or I shouldn't say rejuvenate because you've been sleeping, but like start your day that way, and then have that time where you're checking your digital, devices, and then do some deep work. So put everything away for the hours that you're at your office, do the work that you need to do, and then go revisit. So you have these time blocks, and it's simple. You know this, you've learned this, you teach this, I'm sure.
Yep.
It's time blocking and just creating a little digital break in between those. And that's going to help people with balance, work-life balance for sure, because they're ruled by the phone.
For those that are watching on YouTube, I'm holding up my little timer, and it's full of different times that, like, okay, here is your time to go into emails. And then once it's up, it is up. And it's made such a difference with the way that I approach my work, because I was popping into emails, and then why was I here? And then, okay, well, I guess I'm going to go back into Instagram, and now I'm checking DMs over there. And it's like, wait a second, let's refocus. Where are you at with the day? Like, let's get the stuff on your calendar done. And time blocking, having this little cube timer has been amazing. I'll attach a link to it. They sell them on Amazon, but
I love it.
Yeah,
I do. I want but that. That's so fancy
made such a difference. And I've talked about my cube timer numerous times, because the digital distractions absolutely happen, especially with social media. I'll just pop in and, scroll through the Instagram feed for a while, or I'll just open up TikTok for a minute. And before you know it, an hour has gone by and everything has gotten derailed. Now you're stress working. I love these little cube timers, and the digital distractions, they are very, very real. I know when I was doing my morning Clubhouse rooms a year ago, I'd go outside and stand out on the back deck and do my Clubhouse rooms, but I wasn't looking at my phone. I was there looking out, breathing in the fresh air. And honestly, like you were saying, like even if it's just going outside and breathing in the morning air, that has such an effect for how you can start your day. And it's not you rolling over and getting a blue light right in your face immediately. It's you setting your day with intention and setting the day so that you are the priority. You are the one that is the focus for the day. And it's setting up your day for self-care with that original intention. But JoAnne, this has been such a great conversation. I love the fact that we've touched on so many different ways that you can emphasize self-care. Let's talk about those 4 M's one more time here with the meals and making sure that you're putting the right nutrients, the right food in your body, the motivation, right? The motivation or movement, right?
Yeah, it's meals, it's movement, it's meditation or mindfulness, and it's motivation or mindset. So you have those 4 areas that you really have to master in order to have masterpiece days, to be mastering your day and not letting the day master you. And the food I want to just mention, the food is a big thing. And it's so big that I even have the meal. I have this magazine called The Meal. Yeah. And it's to inspire people to slow down and to realize that it's not only what they eat, but how they eat it, who they eat it with, and where they eat it. And that we need to take that whole approach to food. We have to step back and realize that food is and eating is a sacred act, and that we're not just, we aren't just these like robots popping stuff in our mouth. We have to slow down to improve our digestion. And digestion is one of the first pillars of health, because if you aren't digesting properly, you don't have, the proper metabolism going on, and it's like a cascade effect. So you first need to focus on, what you're eating and how you're eating.
And I know that, we're getting close to wrapping up the episode, but that is something, and we could have a whole episode about, because I know, guilty, I used to sit right here at my desk, move my microphone out of the way, and I'd be eating and I'd be typing, and then I'd be eating and typing. When I stopped and just 10 minutes, which I'm sure like is not enough, but just took 10 minutes to go sit outside in either the lobby area over here, or we have a beautiful balcony outside, go and sit outside to eat. Part of me was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I could be doing other than just like sitting here eating. I could eat and get those emails answered. I could eat and go ahead and check the DMs over on Instagram, or I could go and do my social engagement on LinkedIn. But really just stopping, I'll sometimes put a podcast in and eat my lunch, just look around, get some fresh air. And I come back and I'm like, all right, wow, okay. So I've got about 4 more hours left today. This is what I'm going to get done. Like I come back with intention. Even though it's just 10 minutes away from my desk, it makes a world of difference. And food is sacred. And I definitely think that in a world of rushed living, we have to take that breather and sit down and talk to the people that we're sitting at the table with, look up from our devices and focus in on the food and the people that we're sitting with.
Yeah. Oh, so much so. And that's a whole nother topic. And it's a great topic because it starts your health. It's a foundation for your health. So you're nourishing yourself with the food, but the people that you surround yourself with and the surrounding that you are in nourishes you as well. It's a complete engagement of all 5 senses when you are out of the computer, or outside, away from the computer and away from your phone, So one lesson I will say, just take this away if you're listening. Take your phone and get rid of it from now on when you're eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Just put it on, the island or put it in a drawer or get it off at the table, and don't bring it to lunch with your colleagues, or don't bring it to lunch with, anybody really, just put the phone away and start that way. Start to try to eat without the phone and then go from there. Then you can start the elimination of the phone in other areas.
Well, if people want to learn more about what you teach and what you offer and sign up for the quarterly newsletter, The Meal, how can people do that? How can people get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to my website, JoAnnePavin.com. It's JoAnnepavin.com. And there's a link to The Meal as well. So The Meal is a separate site, themeal.net. And you can sign up for my newsletter. You can connect with me there, or you can send me a DM on LinkedIn. And I'm getting better at managing my social. I'm not real good at social. That's why I connected with you.
Well, you're awesome on LinkedIn. I always know
I have to get better.
You're very active on LinkedIn. So be sure to connect with JoAnne over there. And you're still hosting some Clubhouse rooms so people can follow you there and listen to what you have to say there. And are those weekly rooms, or are you kind of popping them up and just follow you on LinkedIn to find out when those rooms are happening?
Right now they are. Right now they are weekly and 2 times a week, Monday and Friday morning. And that's on how to optimize your health, some tips and discussion on how to master your days through healthy living.
Well, thank you again so much for joining me. And we'll be sure to connect with you again. This has been an awesome discussion.
Thank you, Katie. It's great. And enjoy the rest of your day. Make it a masterpiece day.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode of Rocky Mountain Marketing. Make sure to subscribe so that you can continue navigating the world of entrepreneurship. And I'd love to hear from you. Please leave the show a review and connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at @IamKatieBrinkley or connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you're ready to start making some sales on social media, be sure to grab my free guide to selling in the DMs without being spammy. You can get that at katiebrinkley.com. Let's keep taking your marketing to all new heights.